Orphan Boy has the strongest demon lord sealed inside him. 400 years ago, a powerful demon lord named Dark Schneider decided to create the Dark Rebel Army to conquer the world. Yet he failed. However, due to his absolutely insane plot armor, each time he dies, he always comes back in a new game plus save, tripling his powers to batshit insane levels. 15 years ago, Schneider fought against 4 kingdoms with his 4 comrades, Ni, Kall, Gara, and Abigail, in a 4-year-long war. Despite being a powerful wizard, Schneider also multiclassed into a fighter, giving him powerful magic and the body of Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. After the 4-year battle ended, a priest named Gionodo had read the manga and knew that Dark Schneider was going to come back to life. So, he found Dark Schneider's new form, a baby named Lucian, and sealed his powers and identity in the baby, kinda like a Pokemon. So, instead of being born as Dark Schneider, the baby grew up as this punchable wimp named Lucian. Despite being 2 different people, both Lucian and Schneider have the same soul. And if Lucian dies, Dark Schneider will die too. 15 years later, the kingdom of Metallicana is in big trouble. The Dark Rebel Army, the army of the 4 divine kings founded by Schneider, is attacking. Since Schneider has been gone, this bozo, who we'll never see again after this scene, is now leading the army. The city is in chaos as they're getting randomly struck by Zeus, and the 7-foot-tall steroid goblins led by Osborn are one-shotting all of them. The soldiers can't stop them, because they really think they can block a cavalry charge hulking demons with just 8 of them. What are they thinking? Inside the cathedral, the priests promise to protect Princess Sheila, no matter what, assuring the princess that she'll be safe. The princess asks who the intruders are, and they explain that they're from the Dark Rebel Army. Little Lucian is really scared and grabs the tallest motherfucker in the room, thinking this guy will save him. His guardian Yoko comes over, pulls him away, and asks what's wrong. Lucian cries and says he's scared and wants to leave. Yoko calls him a coward and tells him his bloodline will end with him if he don't thug it out. Lucian is scared she'll hit him, but when he sees she's not, he takes the handkerchief and wipes his face. He wants to wash it since he dirtied it, but she says it's okay. He starts to go wash it anyway, but she pulls him back and tells him to be quiet. The soldiers quickly start barricading the door. They tell the princess that there are too many enemies and that she needs to leave before the enemies smash the door, with Osborn arriving with his dark army. Suddenly, the doors are smashed down and Osborn with his dark army arrives. He laughs as threatens to take the princess away. But Yoko steps forward, saying she won't allow him. Since they are outnumbered, Yoko plans to defeat the enemy with a secret spell she learned from her father, Gionodo. Gio had warned her to use it only in life or death situations, and that spell would awaken Lucian's true identity. Yoko asks what he means by Lucian's true identity, and Gio reveals that Lucian is a reincarnation of Schneider. Once the seal breaks, Schneider will awaken and use his power to destroy his enemies. Gio adds that to complete the spell, a virgin maiden's kiss will be needed. He emphasizes that Yoko must not get a boyfriend because he's been grooming her to be a groomer who will save the world. Seeing this as the perfect moment, Yoko decides to kiss an unconscious Lucian, who got hurt during one of the enemy attacks. Suddenly, a dark aura emerges from Lucian, getting stronger as if he's adult gone, transforming into Schneider. Everyone is shocked and scared to see the return of the Demon Lord. Schneider starts laughing like a maniac because he's finally free to conquer the world, until the plot stops him from doing so. However, the Dark Rebel Army seems to have forgotten who's in charge. 2 of our unlucky viewers charge at Schneider, but he tells them to be quiet and cook them instantly. Yoko, still in shock, asks if he's Lucian. Schneider replies that he's still Lucian. The people can't believe their eyes as they see the Demon Lord back alive. Yet Osborn isn't afraid and boasts that the Dark Rebel Army rules everything. He commands the monsters to attack. However, Schneider turns every monster into a tomato paste so he can send them to Uncle Roger. Everyone is scared, witnessing the incredible power of the legendary Demon Lord. Schneider boldly approaches Osborn, who, despite being scared, throws empty threats. He boasts about ending Schneider and how the Dark Rebel Army will destroy the kingdom. He claims to use his strongest spell that no one can withstand, ripping off Sasuke's Chidori. Schneider laughs, saying that some knockoff Chidori won't work on him, but Osborn launches it anyway. To everyone's surprise, Schneider got cooked, literally. Osborn mocks him for claiming it wouldn't work. Yoko starts to scream because damn, he didn't even last 10 seconds. He's just like me. Osborn starts hitting Schneider with his club, dealing absolutely 0 damage. However, he drops the club in fear when the charcoal starts coming undone. Osborn can't believe Schneider survived. Furious, Schneider prepares a spell to eliminate Osborn. Osborn begs for his life, promising to do anything. But Schneider shows no mercy, eliminating him in a massive blaze of fire, leaving everyone stunned. He uses this chance to get away from the cathedral. Yoko manages to notice and chases him, curious about where he's going. He tells her he wants revenge on her father for sealing him up. And then he plans to start a thermonuclear global war. He laughs and asks if this scares her, saying he'll end anyone who opposes him, whether good or evil. Yoko can't believe what she's hearing, but Schneider assures her that he will spare her life, so long as she doesn't have fans in her bile. Yoko is feeling something for this wizard, but she doesn't want to believe it. Schneider pulls her close, and she struggles away, thinking he must have some kind of demonic riz, the way he's making her act up. He denies it, and when she asks if he loves her, he says he hates her because she always bosses him around. Then, unexpectedly, he kisses her. However, Schneider suddenly feels pain and screams out. Before he can do anything, the spell is undone, and Schneider transforms back into young Lucian, who is left confused. Yoko figures out that a kiss can activate the seal again. Lucian doesn't know what happened and starts looking around for the monster. However, Yoko just smiles and tells that she's gonna make him Makima pilled for the rest of his life. Lucian doesn't question it and mentions that he's hungry. Yoko suggests they go back home, and Lucian smiles widely. They start walking home, and she asks him if he likes her. Yoko and Lucian head back home, and they sit down for dinner. Later that night, a mysterious man appears and defeats the guards protecting the house. This dude ate a kunai, and he's just doing his job. The mysterious person goes to Yoko's room. Yoko wakes up and starts asking him questions. He compliments her cleverness, but before he can introduce himself, she kicks him in the nuts, sending a global pain felt by every man alive, which knocks him down. Yoko demands to know who he is, but the guy stands up and introduces himself as Evil Guts. He reveals that he is one of the 4 divine kings created by Schneider. Gara explains he has a question for Yoko and knows she's the High Priest's daughter. Gara restrains Yoko to the wall and asks where Schneider is. Yoko insists she doesn't know anyone by that name. Meanwhile, Lucian is sleeping soundly without a care in the world. Gara mentions Venom, a spell created by Schneider, and talks about a golem that killed a Hydra. He believes Schneider has returned because golems only obey Schneider. Confused about why Schneider protected the kingdom twice, Gara wants answers from Yoko, but Yoko literally have no idea why this guy Lord dumped her something she won't even remember. Gara urges her to spill the tea, but their interrogation awakes Lucian up. Yoko worries that Gara will discover Schneider is sealed inside Lucian. However, Gara pays no attention to Lucian and continues questioning Yoko. Suddenly, Lucian emits a dark aura and yells at Gara in Schneider's voice, warning him not to touch Yoko as she is his woman, threatening to end him if he does. Gara is baffled by this, and Yoko is equally puzzled she hasn't groomed that soft boy yet. Schneider, still in Lucian's form, responds that Yoko has unsealed him twice, weakening the seal. While Lucian sleeps, Schneider can regain some control. Gara can't believe Schneider was sealed inside Lucian. At that moment, the High Priest and guards burst into the room to save Yoko. Gara then grabs Yoko and blows a signal, summoning Brown Eye's Black Dragon in defense position. He climbs on it with Yoko and uses it to escape. Before leaving, Gara tells the High Priest that he will exchange his daughter for Schneider. But the High Priest can't hear him because he's too far up in the sky. Schneider seethes with anger, but is powerless as Lucian takes control of his body. Yoko's abduction is reported to the king and the council. The counselor is concerned that the enemy now knows Schneider's secret. Gio is relieved that Lucian is still with them and states that the worst hasn't happened yet. The king sympathizes with Gio, acknowledging his worry for his daughter. Some priests suggest forming a rescue party, but Gio reveals it's useless because only Schneider knows Gara's location, as he's also the geoguesser guy in this world. The council doesn't know what to do because they cannot break Schneider's seal without Yoko. They can't kiss this young boy because they're not Catholic priests. They think they need to finding another virgin maiden with magical abilities. However, there are rare. Princess Sheila steps forward, offering to groom the boy, mentioning her training in white magic by the priest. They all agree to let Princess Sheila help. The king disagrees because, for the royal family, a kiss means marriage because they're all idiots. Sheila argues that Yoko needs help, and she can't just hide while Yoko suffers. She refuses to abandon her friend, but her father insists royalty can't kiss a peasant. Gio steps in, saying the king's health isn't good, and orders the guards to send him to Brazil. After getting rid of the king, Sheila begins by calling Lucian to come over. The priests worry it might be risky, as Schneider could wake up and choose to join the enemy. However, another counselor reassures them, saying kidnapping Yoko has made the kidnappers enemies of Schneider. Gio explains that awakening Schneider has risks, but he has memories from the 14 years he lived as Lucian, which has changed him. Despite being worried about the idea of getting cancelled on Twitter, Sheila decides to continue with the spell. Schneider is the only one who can stop Kall-Su from bringing back the god of destruction. Sheila hopes Gio's words about Schneider being their savior are true. She completes the spell, and we have to blur this part because of YouTube policies. Lucian transforms into Schneider but doesn't go rogue. He turns to Gio, who explains that Yoko has been abducted by Gara. Schneider goes Sheila and some soldiers to rescue Yoko from Gara's fortress. He complains about her coming with him, but she reveals she still doesn't trust him. Sheila looks around and asks Schneider if Gara's hideout is there. Schneider responds that Gara has had a base in Grave Valley for the past 15 years. Sheila orders the soldiers to move out, and they try to figure out how to sneak in past the gate. Sheila suggests going through the gate, but the commander tells her she should stop reading Sun Tzu because she's going to get them killed. Schneider starts laughing and says he likes the idea. He steps forward and blasts the gate, the debris taking out the guards. The commander is suspicious because no sneaky bastards are trying to stop them. Suddenly, a minotaur bursts through a wall. Schneider sees a ladder going up and tells the guards to hold off the minotaur while he and Sheila climb the wall, basically leaving the guards to die. They climb the ladder, and as they proceed into the hall, Sheila notices a red sword nearby, thinking it's a legendary loot. Without hesitation, she picks it up, and Schneider tries to stop her. The sword is covered in fire, and Sheila gets scared, saying the sword doesn't like getting touched without consent. Schneider knocks the sword from her hand, but he gets stabbed in the process. He explains that the sword had a spell trap on it. Sheila worries as Schneider is bleeding and collapses to the ground. Despite his pain, he scolds her for not being careful, and worse, the sword blade was coated with poison. Resting his head on her lap, she's filled with concern and promises to do anything he asks. He lays on his back and tells her to suck out the poison from the wound. During the process, the fire sword suddenly activates on its own, and a demon named Ifrit emerges from it. Ifrit warns Schneider and Sheila that they'll pay with their lives and intensifies the fire around them. However, Schneider surprises Ifrit by simply being built different. Despite Ifrit's attempts to make them run by intensifying the fire and casting another spell, Schneider easily low-diffs him. He informs Ifrit that the spell is his, but Schneider's vision starts getting blurry due to the poison. To protect Sheila, Schneider decides to unleash 1% of his power. He covers them both with a barrier and instructs Sheila not to move. He decides to fight Ifrit, who cranks up the fire, surrounding Schneider with flames. Ifrit calls Schneider stupid for leaving his barrier, saying he'll never be him. Sheila worries for him, but Schneider endures the heat and counterattacks. Ifrit mocks him, asking if he's not afraid of the 2,000-degree flame. Schneider starts Y-posing on him, and Ifrit boasts that the spell won't work on him. Schneider finishes the spell and charges with his My Hero Academy attack. Ifrit is shocked, asking how Schneider created a flame hotter than his. Schneider explains that he's him, and he doesn't need to elaborate any further. Ifrit can't believe he's literally him. Gara hears all the commotion and smiles as he carries Yoko because he knows Schneider is around. Schneider uses the force to send Ifrit crashing through a window. Ifrit can't believe that he, a fire spirit, was defeated by a human for the first time in his 300 years. Schneider stomps on Ifrit's head as he dissolves into smoke and turns back into the sword. Schneider is disappointed that Ifrit was too easy and they should give him harder enemies to low diff. The ninjas in the room are shocked that Ifrit accepted defeat and turned back into the sword. Even Gara couldn't conquer him, and now Schneider is the sword's master. Schneider grabs the fire sword, mentioning it's of no use to a wizard like him because he has no longsword proficiency. He'll need to respect to get that. Lifting the sword, he calls out to Gara to bring out Yoko. The ninjas flee, fearing Schneider will use the sword. Before Schneider activates it, Gara appears, carrying Yoko in his hands. He smiles, saying it's been 15 years since he last saw Schneider. Yoko is moved that Schneider came to save her. Gara drops Yoko, praising Schneider for defeating Ifrit. He mentions how back in the day, Schneider controlled 400 Gorillian armies and almost conquered the world. Despite all the spells Schneider used to get there and the poison in his system, Gara knows Schneider is at his limit. He says Yoko must be special for Schneider to go out of his way to save her, which is unlike him. Usually, Schneider is the personification of evil. He will do anything to win, which makes people scared of him. But it's funny that a girl like Yoko got him all whipped and acting up. Gara leaves Yoko and challenges Schneider to settle their differences with a battle. He wants to find out who's stronger, a wizard casting the first spell or a swordsman swinging the first blow. He asks Schneider to prove how much stronger he's become in the last 15 years, and Schneider accepts without hesitation. Schneider tries to take advantage by launching at Gara, but Gara mid-diffs him. Schneider is forced to move back, unable to close the distance. The ninjas cheer for their master as Gara boasts about attacking Schneider without closing in. Schneider stands his ground, and Gara rushes at him, daring him to cast a spell. Gara swings his sword at Schneider, who dodges skillfully. Schneider fights with a sword, but he remembers again he doesn't have long sword proficiency and will need to remake his character. Yoko watches and realizes that without a spell, Schneider is literally trash. There's no way Schneider can stand against this bootleg guts. However, Sheila arrives and reassures her that the writers will let Schneider defeat his enemy. Yoko is concerned that Sheila was the one who awakened Schneider. Gara and Schneider continue clashing swords, and Gara delivers a hit that pushes Schneider back. Schneider starts reciting incantations, making the ninjas worry he's going to cast venom. Gara confidently charges towards Schneider, predicting it's the only spell Schneider has left. Schneider finishes the spell, but Gara closes the gap and cuts off Schneider's arm. The girls are worried, and the ninjas are glad Gara made it. But Schneider isn't done. He casts venom, burning Gara's hands and turning him one step closer to the real guts. Gara made that last jump because venom would have hit his whole body and destroyed it. Schneider tells Gara he underestimated him and has pushed him further than anyone ever has. They both become serious and declare they will end the other. The ninjas worry that if they clash head-on, one of them will obviously win and their balls in Schneider's stocks. Still, they doubt Schneider has any spells left to fight Gara. Schneider begins casting a legendary spell. Gara prepares his own ultimate attack, telling Schneider he can't cast that spell in his condition. Schneider finishes the spell and Gara launches his attack, but Schneider counters it. Gara is shocked that his ultimate attack, faster than the speed of sound, was parried by Schneider. The fortress suddenly starts to collapse and Schneider laughs. He explains that when two opposing spirits merge, they generate a force field. With this power, he plans to blow Gara and his fortress away. He calls this jihadist Oppenheimer and unleashes it. The floor under Gara gives way, and Schneider starts laughing as everything begins to collapse. Some debris almost falls on the girls, but the barrier protects them. The entire fortress collapses with everyone inside, leaving Gara and Schneider both stuck under a bunch of rubble. They're talking while their arms are slowly getting better. Gara says Schneider cheated because he still had a spell left. Schneider tells him that high-level wizards like him always save level 6 spells for last. Gara thinks that's a silly thing to say and calls Schneider stupid for just fixing his cut arm without treatment. Gara doesn't understand Schneider's body, but he doesn't really care. Schneider smiles and says he likes that Gara can let things go. Gara is surprised because Schneider tried to hurt him not long ago. Schneider just smiles back. Gara suddenly remembers Lars, who is literally a Pokemon. He shouts for Lars, but the dragon is safe, holding onto Sheila. Sheila gives Lars to Gara, and he's happy that the dragon is okay. Yoko explains that the barrier protected Lars, and all of them too. Gara figures out that Schneider protected Lars. He can't believe that even when Schneider was exhausted, he still thought to keep everyone safe, except his own soldiers, who got no diff by that Minotaur earlier. Anyone remember them? In his previous life, Schneider wouldn't care and would end Gara and Lars. Gara smiles and tells Schneider that he didn't know he was chill like that. Sheila is amazed that during the fight, Schneider still chose to protect his enemies. Schneider turns to Yoko, smiles, and starts moving around in front of her. Yoko responds by thanking him for coming to save her. Schneider asks if that's all, and she adds that he was cool. This makes him smile, and then he surprises Yoko by, well, you can probably guess it by now. Meanwhile, Abigail watched the fight between Schneider and Gara. He knows that Gara will switch side and work for Schneider again. So he decides to send Dark Elf Casca to attack Metallicana. After making up with Schneider, Gara tells the group that the Dark Rebel Army is attacking the kingdom of Metallicana, causing this guy to do a soyjack. They rush back to the castle to protect the kingdom. As the Dark Army gets closer, Gara sends his ninja army to fight them, cutting through the monsters. The situation changes when Ni joins the battle. Without wasting time, she attacks Gara on his wyvern. They clash swords, creating lightning that shocks them and makes them fall off the wyvern. They land safely on the ground, and Gara is happy to see Ni, but she isn't pleased. She asks why he betrayed the 4 Divine Kings, and he says Schneider's plan is more fun. Plus, he's not like Griffith. This annoys her, and she declares that she will end him with her secret Hyraiken sword style, which is no longer a secret. She uses it to cut off his arm again, and the attack is so powerful that it even creates a lightning bolt that explodes, causing a part of the bridge to be destroyed. The ninjas, who never really offered help to their master when he's facing tough enemies, are once again worried for their master. Fortunately, Gara has Obamacare and attaches his arm back. Ni comes face to face with Schneider, revealing her hate towards him. In the past, Schneider found Ni as an orphan girl and raised her. And by the time she became older, they became lovers until he decided to leave the four divine kings. As Ni reminisces about the past, Schneider hugs her from behind. She tries to break free, but he tightens his grip and asks if she's still thinking about killing him instead of intense backshot sessions. She confirms it, determined to make sure he doesn't come back to life this time. However, Schneider, knowing her well, uses his demonic riz to make her fall for his words. He lifts her up and questions why she's acting this way. Ni starts complaining about how he rizzes her up, but other women too. Schneider, the smooth talker, reassures her that in the 100 years they've spent together, he loves her more than anyone. Ni becomes convinced by Schneider's words and is about to touch his face when she notices her blue nail. Suddenly, she recalls Abigail's warning. He had predicted this could happen, so he casted a spell on Ni. If she fails to kill Schneider or ends up switching sides, her blue nail will turn red and her body will explode. Ni sees her nail changing to purple, a sign that it will soon turn red. Schneider notices her worried look and asks what's wrong. She pushes him away, calling him a coward and saying his tricky ways won't work on her. Schneider is confused as he watches her hop onto her griffin. She then warns him that she'll be back with her army to end him and Metallicana. With Ni gone for now, they head back to the castle to heal Gara's wounds. At dinner, Schneider notices Yoko giving him the cold shoulder. Unable to figure it out, he demands to know what she's mad about. He starts whining like a baby, even shedding tears, saying it's not fair she's ignoring him. Yoko responds with the same tone, stating she's not mad, she's just a woman. After the argument with Yoko, Schneider rests in his room when he senses that the elemental spirits are getting wild. Turns out, Ni is back and cast a super powerful spell called Megadeath on part of the castle, breaking it apart. Schneider is frustrated that he couldn't react in time, and that's a pretty lame magic to reference a thrash metal band. Lars is surprised that Ni used such a strong spell. Schneider explains that's why she's called the Empress of Thunder. Schneider gets mad that Ni is taking things too far and decides to challenge her. But Sheila stops him, begging him not to go and crying that he'll get killed. Yoko is thinking the same thing, worrying that Schneider might not come out alive if he fights his daughter and lover. What the hell did she say again? She tries to talk him out of it, but Schneider suddenly asks her to give him motion. Confused, she does. He takes it, flips it into the air, catches it, and tells Sheila that's how she gets scammed. He stares at Ni and says he's sure she won't let him go without a fight. He decides he must go and orders both of them to hide. Ni zooms over them on her griffin, declaring she's back as promised and ready to take Schneider's life. Schneider is disappointed and threatens her that she'll never be able to walk after 2 rounds with him. Gara worries that they're finally fighting and it's going to be really bad. He notes that Ni has fixed her broken sword, the Ragingkin, and the odds are against Schneider this time. Schneider casts a spell called I'm Going to Fly spell, allowing him to fly into the sky, astonishing everyone because humans can't fly. Ni isn't bothered and prepares a spell, making the Ragingkin buzz with lightning. Schneider asks about the spell, and she tells him there are many high ancient spells he doesn't know. She raises the sword and creates a lightning sphere. Schneider hasn't seen this before, and she explains that the sphere has a spell called I'm going to absorb all spells around me around it, meaning he can no longer use his spells in battle. The sphere starts absorbing Schneider's magic, causing him to fall to the ground. The girls are worried about him, while Gara figures out that Ni was smart to switch to a sword fight because she'd lose in a magic duel. It's dangerous for Schneider as Ni can attack with her sword from above. As predicted, she launches towards Schneider, stating he's no match for her Ragingkin now that his magic is sealed. However, Schneider surprises her by countering with a fire spell, which gets absorbed by the sphere unexpectedly. Ni says it's useless and prepares a powerful attack called Send this bozo flying to a wall, sending Schneider flying into the wall. Schneider stands, realizing he can't fight her without a weapon. Gara looks like he's been doing coke for days. Ni is about to make the finishing blow when something flies past her and lands behind Schneider. It turns out to be Efreet. Efreet warns Ni to beware, as she won't harm his master anymore. He, the guardian of the fire sword, has arrived. Schneider wasn't expecting to see Efreet. Efreet reminds him that he's the rightful wielder of the fire sword, and a sword is bound to defend its master. If Schneider is going against Nie's Raijinken, Efreet will become his sword for this fight, transforming into the fire sword. Nie is angry that her chance of winning is slipping away. Schneider didn't want help from Efreet, but considering his situation, he picks up the sword, which immediately ignites with flames. Now he's ready to fight Nie, who prepares another slash, declaring she won't miss again. As she launches towards him, he goes for her griffin, slashing it in two and roasting it into a delicious rotisserie griffin. Nie jumps off and lands on the ground. Schneider smiles, but the ground under him suddenly cracks and gives way. Schneider stands up to regain himself from the fall. Nie approaches him, complimenting him for taming Efreet and wielding the fire sword. However, she states that he will prove he's no match for the thunder beast residing in her sword. Schneider tells her to quit boasting and come at him. The two magic swords, one with fire and the other with lightning, are glowing with their own special powers. The ninjas are excited for the big fight, but Gara says that Schneider is kind of in a tough spot. His magic is sealed, and even though his fire sword is way stronger than Raijinken and has great physical strength, Nie will low-diff him in a sword fight. Gara thinks the fight won't last long because one powerful hit will decide the winner. Schneider and Nie are just standing there, staring at each other, ready to attack anytime. Nie decides to make the first move, using her ultimate move. Gara gets worried for Schneider and tells him to run away. Schneider tries to block the attack with the fire sword, but it's tough for him. Suddenly, Efreet calls Schneider's name, saying he's a great master and the world still needs his power. Efreet takes on Raijinken, and both sword wielders lose their swords. Efreet tells Schneider he won't let him be defeated by Raijinken. It turns into a crazy stand battle with the swords floating and clashing in the air. You thought it was a Berserk reference, but it was a JoJo reference all along. Schneider isn't happy about Efreet sacrificing himself, but Efreet bids him farewell, wishing him to win. Efreet plunges himself and Raijinken into a lightning sphere, destroying both. Schneider is furious, cursing Efreet for doing something reckless. Nie doesn't care and charges at Schneider, reminding him they're still in a fight. She uses her sharp fingers to pierce Schneider's forehead. Nie smiles, thinking she took Schneider's life. Everyone's in shock as Schneider's body falls. Yoko tries to convince herself that he's immortal and will come back to life. Lying on the floor, Schneider remembers Efreet's words, and suddenly, he starts getting some crazy anime powers. Nie tells herself, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," when Schneider grabs her. The ninjas are puzzled as they thought her hands had pierced Schneider's brain. But little did they know, Schneider doesn't have one. Gara explains that since the lightning sphere, which absorbed Schneider's magic, is gone, the magic field protecting him is restored. Now he might have a chance against Nie. Even though they're on equal terms in a magic duel, there's a risk that one or both of them might be wiped out. Unlike a sword fight where you can stop a swing, magic spells can't be stopped once cast. Nie is bewildered that Schneider is still alive. He quickly stands up, grabbing her hand, and declares she'll pay for what she's done. He declares she's no longer his daughter and his lover, and must now die as his enemy. Nie is shocked, but she frees herself from his grip, stating she never thought of him as her father or her lover. Stepping back, they both start casting their own domain expansion at the same time and soar into the sky. Launching hollow purples at each other, the spells are so evenly matched that they explode. Nie smiles, recognizing Schneider's skill, noting that no one has matched her in a lightning spell for the last 15 years. Schneider compliments her for getting stronger. Gara warns that both need to be careful in the next clash, or they might be blown away. Schneider smiles and takes the lead, deciding to cast a fire spell, the same one he used to conquer Efreet. Gara worries that Schneider might be trying to actually harm Nie. Nie tells Schneider not to underestimate her and casts the exact same fire spell. Gara shouts for them to stop, fearing they might both die, but they charge at each other. In the midst of the clash, Schneider recalls the time he spent caring for Nie, affecting him. This results in an explosion, sending him flying and creating a large sphere of fire that dissipates, leaving a huge hole in the raining clouds. Gara figures out that Schneider's feelings took over, causing a decrease in power and speed. He yells that he should stay focused and should stop tripping, but his ninjas stop him due to concerns about his injury. Nie is angry that Schneider let his feelings impact their death match, something he wouldn't do before. Contrary to expectations, Schneider isn't defeated and has unlocked Super Saiyan 1. He rises with more power, praising himself for conjuring an amazing power to come back to life. Everyone is relieved to see him alive after enduring a strong magic attack. He laughs, calling them weak commoners while boasting about being a hero chosen by God. However, his bluff is exposed as his head starts spraying blood and he collapses to his knees. Ni flies over, praising his apparent immortality, but declares it's his end as he has no strength left. She intends to end him, but Schneider tells her that he's gonna blur her chocolate cakes for a bit because it goes against YouTube standards. This confuses Ni, but she dismisses his words, thinking he might say such things to any woman. Despite her skepticism, Schneider suddenly calls her name, making her halt. He then confesses, saying that he loves her. Ni remains unconvinced and becomes furious, accusing him of his demonic Riz acting up once again. She recites an anti-Riz spell, a dangerous move since losing concentration would lead the summoned spirits to attack the summoner. Schneider refuses to back down from the fight, and another round begins. Both initiate a flight spell, floating in the air. Schneider counters by summoning fire spirits that can match Ni's thunder spirits. Gara is impressed as both magicians summon multiple spirits simultaneously. Ni launches her thunder spirits at Schneider, who sends his fire spirits to counter. Amidst the spirit clash, Schneider calls Ni by her nickname, asking her to stop, but she insists he shouldn't use it. A lightning strike almost hits him, prompting him to flee with his spirits. Ni pursues with her own spirits. During the chase, Schneider questions Ni about the ideal society she talks about and why she wants to conquer the world. He wonders about her obsession with Kall-Su and her plan to create a harem after conquering the world. Ni explains that the Sorcerer Kingdom represents an ideal society governed by magic, free from racism, poverty, and war. She believes it's a dream worth dying for. Schneider dismisses it, asserting that hatred and conflict are part of human nature, and achieving eternal peace is impossible. Ni retorts that a vulgar person like him will never understand her vision. She narrates how, as a half-elf, born from a time of war, faced rejection from both humans and elves. Humans and elves didn't accept her because of her mixed heritage, and that made her really sad. Ever since she was a little kid, people treated her badly, and it hurt a lot. Things got even worse when a war started among the Wood Elves, and the Dark Elf tribe that had taken her in, knowing she was a half-elf, left her all alone. She wandered around a destroyed battlefield, feeling lost and wondering why they abandoned her. Later on, she realized they used the war as an excuse to leave her. Schneider, hearing her story for the first time, starts to feel sorry for her. She tells Schneider that fighting for her ideals is important because there are other half-elves out there looking for a safe place. She decides to use a big lightning strike against him, but Schneider catches her hand and reminds her of the time when he first met her. He mentions that when he passed by, she reached out and grabbed his robe, and over the past 100 years, he became her sanctuary. Schneider asks her to remember the good times they had together as a kind of family. Ni recalls the 15 years they spent together, remembering it as a paradise, even though Schneider thought it was just a game. They are about to share a special moment when something Ni's blue nails suddenly turn purple, causing her pain, and a barrier pushes Schneider away from her. Schneider gets up to check on Ni, but she surprises him with a punch that sends him rolling. Angry, she can't believe she almost fell for his tricks. She accuses him of using the same strategy to seduce 100 women and turn them into pawns for his ambitious plans. Ni summons thunder spirits and sends them at Schneider, who counters by summoning fire spirits. The spirits clash fiercely, but Gara notices Schneider's fire spirits becoming erratic, a sign he's losing concentration and reaching his limit. Any more damage could be dangerous. Ni sees an opportunity and goes for the finishing blow, sending Schneider flying and hitting rocks along the way. Yoko, watching, screams his name. Ni recalls Schneider saying she's not his daughter, something he always brings up in arguments, and occasionally saying, "I love you," when she apologizes. Angry, she realizes he used these sentences to manipulate her, ending every argument. Standing in front of a weak and bleeding Schneider, she concludes that she was nothing more than a rare half-elf he raised on a whim, and he never knew how much he meant to her. Empowering her fist with lightning, Ni punches Schneider, sending him flying again. She declares surrender is not an option in a fight with her, then laughs. However, deep inside, she's hurting because Schneider doesn't seem to understand that he meant more to her than just a father or lover. He was someone she could rely on and loved. Despite this, she wishes he would stay down. Her nail is turning red, a sign of impending trouble, but Schneider catches himself and lands safely. Ni is conflicted seeing him stand up again, and her finger starts oozing blood, indicating trouble ahead. Yoko is confused as she no longer senses any evil intent from Ni. Instead, she looks like a crying child. Ni's thunder spirits start going out of control, crashing into walls, with one hitting the pillar where Shailanad and Yoko were standing. Schneider sees this and calls out to Yoko, screaming her name. Ni is confused by his reaction. But when the smoke clears, Yoko reveals 2 fingers to signify she's okay, making Schneider relieved. Yoko states that she isn't going down easily. Lars calls for Sheila, who is unconscious. Yoko checks on her and is relieved to find she's still breathing, just unconscious. The Thunder Spirits band and move toward Schneider and Nee, aiming to attack them. Nee covers herself with a barrier, and as the spirits dissipate, she decides to give up, seeing no point in continuing the fight. As the coast clears, she announces her intention to end things, mentioning that Schneider can only manage 1 more spell at most. She tells Schneider to give his best shot or Yoko will really die, getting a reaction from him. Gara is confused, sensing something is off. The Thunder Spirits were out of Nee's control and attacked Yoko, but now she's implying that she sent them there on purpose. Yoko also suspects that Nee doesn't seem like she wants to kill Schneider. Nee's plan works, making Schneider fume and yell that he will destroy anyone who hurts Yoko, even if it's her. She smiles, holding onto her bleeding nails, while Abigail, in his lair, laughs menacingly. It might be too late for Nee if she doesn't hurry before the nails turn crimson. She can break the curset by taking out Schneider's heart and using the blood to break the spell. Nee prepares herself, warning Schneider that her next spell is a destructive one that will end his life. Angry, Schneider is ready to take her on, saying he will counter with his own ultimate spell. Geo and a witch arrive on the scene to watch the fight. Geo comments that the magical force they are releasing will end up killing each other, but the witch disagrees. She saw Schneider in her vision with his chest torn out, and she believes fate has already decided the outcome. They both begin casting the same spell, and Gara is worried because it's not just any spell, it's Schneider's unfinished spell. However, judging by the intensity and the way they are going, he thinks Schneider might have finished the spell, the ultimate mass destruction spell. As the spells clash, Nee says her final goodbye and an "I love you." The collision creates a blinding light with a strong wind. They initially seem evenly matched, but Gara notes that Schneider's spell is slightly stronger, pushing Nee back. The end will soon come as the spell doesn't last long, and the immense repulsive force between them will blow Nee away. Nee wishes for the fight to quickly end, preferring to be taken by death caused by Schneider rather than endure the curse that pulverizes her. Yoko sees Nee in tears and realizes she doesn't want things to end this way. No parent and child should kill each other. Yoko starts yelling at them to stop, calling to Gara to intervene. Gara explains it's too late, as they are in a trance state and cannot hear them. Additionally, the power of a magic spell cannot be recalled. All they can do is witness the end of Nee as she struggles against the magic force. Nee, waiting for her end, wishes that when she dies, Schneider holds her in his hand one last time, shedding tears. Schneider continues, and suddenly he hears a voice calling his name. He demands to know who is calling him, and is taken into a trance state where he sees Lucian calling him. Lucian informs him that due to Nee's love for him, she is suffering a pain worse than death. Lucian tells Schneider to open his eyes and look at his daughter. Schneider sees Nee's finger gushing blood, recognizing the curse accused. Lucian explains that trapped in her unrelenting torment, Nee has chosen death not by the hands of the curse, but by the hands of her beloved. Realizing that Abigail is behind this, Schneider sees Nee falling as she utters that she loves him and sheds tears on the last one. This angers Schneider, causing a power overload that surprisingly reverses the spell they were casting. It turns out that Schneider teleported the spell somewhere else. Nee realizes she's still alive. Schneider stands in front of her, asking if the curse hurts, noticing her profusely bleeding finger. He tells her that he will set her free. To her shock, he pierces his hand through his chest and pulls out his heart. As his blood touches Nee's fingers, the spell on her hand breaks and a weird gray thing flies into the sky. Baba, the witch, says it's a bad spirit from a long time ago, and it was a strong curse on Nee. Gara gets mad at Schneider for pulling his heart out to save Nee, calling him an idiot for trying to be a hero for justice. It makes Gara cry. Schneider falls towards Nee. While he falls, Nee remembers the good times they had. She holds Schneider, who is all bloody, as her magic nail is broken. Nee cries and screams really loud. Baba's prediction comes true. Yoko passes out seeing Schneider death. She wonders why all this had to happen, and thinks about the time she spent with Schneider. They lay Schneider in an open room. Geo asks about Nee, and the head knight says she didn't leave Schneider's side. She stayed with his body for 3 days until she collapsed from being too tired and is now sleeping in her room. Geo worries that Kall-Su and Abigail might take advantage of this time to attack them. Yoko goes into the room where Schneider's body is. She looks at him, all still, and says he never gave her back the coin he borrowed. She leans over him, kisses him, and tears fill her eyes. After she leaves, Lars comes in, and suddenly Schneider's body starts glowing super bright. It turns into Lucian, then goes back to Schneider. Lars is totally shocked by what he sees. While Abigail is busy bringing back the god of destruction, Schneider gets resurrected too, thanks to its power. 400 years ago, the god of destruction wrecked the earth to free it from its dark heart. When everything was almost destroyed, a bright light appeared, bringing a dragon. They fought hard, shaking the Earth's axis and killing tons of people. The dragon won, but the story changed over time and people forgot the real truth. Yoko and a bunch of other folks gather where Schneider is. They watch as his heart comes back, but there's this creepy aura around him as he comes back to life. Geo thinks the power seems connected to the demon god's resurrection. A hole pops up in the middle of Schneider's chest once his heart is all back. Strings of blood from his chest pull the brand new heart into the hole, fitting it just right where it's supposed to be. Yoko climbs on top of Schneider's body and starts slapping him on the face, telling him to wake up. She says they need his help and threatens to punch him if he doesn't wake up. The threat works and Schneider wakes up, blowing off the roof of the room. Schneider wakes up with Yoko in his arms. Geo sees this and thinks Schneider is way more powerful now than he used to be. The current him is way beyond what any of them could have imagined. Later that same day, Gara bursts into a room, yelling for Schneider and telling him to check outside. Schneider asks why Gara's so worked up, but Gara just says to shut up and look. Schneider and Yoko go up to the window and see a black cloud in the sky. At the same time, the soldiers face a demon that looks like a skeleton right outside the gates. The demon seems to be making the black cloud. The skeleton demon chants a spell and uses it to attack the soldiers. The creepy skeleton makes its way into the town, letting out its evil vibe. It says humans are weak and should just obey it. If they do, they can be part of its soul and live forever with Lick, the Eddy, which is a ring with a stone on it. Geo, Yoko, and a few others watch from the top of the castle. The two priests with them freak out, saying it's all over. With a monster like Lick spreading decay, they're all in big trouble. They explain that the situation now is like what happened 50 years ago at the Purple Castle. Yoko says she's heard of the castle, but doesn't know what happened there. Her dad explains that the 4 royal families are all connected, and they all trace back to the Purple royal family. The kingdom of Purple used to be rich with beautiful water, good land, and nice weather. But one night, it turned into a total wasteland. One day at Purple Castle, Lick showed up with a dark cloud and attacked the Purple kingdom. Geo explains that 4 folks chose to become Eddies using the Become Undead spell. They were powerful priests and magicians, each with their dungeons, disliked by people because of their negative magic. But they weren't enemies. Then, 50 years ago, a reckless person insisted on messing with the Megadeth spell in one of the dungeons. Yoko figures out it's Schneider, as he's the only one who uses that spell. Gargoyles around the castle walls light up and turn into fire, making a firewall around the whole city. The flame wall stops the dark cloud from going further. Schneider, Gara, and Nee, all geared up, go toward Lick. Schneider says Lick is just a stand-in sent to destroy them, but he's excited for the fun. Nee notices something's off with the flame wall and tells Schneider. She says Eddies are powerful undead monsters with more smarts than humans, but this Eddy listens to Abigail and follows his orders. Schneider says it should be simple to deal with it because he did experiments with the Megadeth spell 50 years ago in the Purple Kingdom's dungeon. Gara wonders if the kingdom of Purple fell because of Schneider 50 years ago. Schneider laughs and says it might have been his fault. Anyway, no matter who the enemy is, they will handle them easily. Lick strolls through the flame wall like it's nothing, surprising both Gara and Nee. Schneider walks up to Lick to face him. Lick recognizes him, saying it's been years since they last saw each other. Schneider agrees. Lick then attacks with multiple dark spirits. Lick wonders how a human like Schneider commands such big dark power, but he doesn't care. He's there to get the thing Abigail promised him. Schneider creates a huge flame, telling Lick he's not letting him through. This startles Lick, who brags about being a handsome hero and attacks Schneider. Lick casts a barrier spell, surprising everyone, and says he's made all Schneider's spells useless. Schneider calls Lick stupid, pointing out the barrier blocks Lick's spells too, and without them, he's just a bony skeleton. Lick laughs and shows off the Satan ring, the 3rd demonic treasure. He brags about how it's one of the most powerful magic items, and everyone who does magic dreams of having it. He casts a spell that makes a black sphere above his head, like a black hole, sucking things in its range. The sphere pulls in stuff from around, even grabbing Schneider. Schneider tries hard to resist the pull since he can't fly without magic. He tells Gara and Nee to stay back or they'll get sucked in too. Lick laughs, making fun of humans and saying Schneider is no match for him. Schneider gets pulled toward the sphere, and the thing helping him breaks. Nee jumps to save him, grabs his hand, and stabs her sword into concrete, stopping them from being pulled in. Schneider scolds Nee, telling her to let go or she'll get pulled into the black hole too. She cries and says it doesn't matter. Even if she dies, she won't let him go. Schneider is moved by her tears and words. Her sword starts cracking, and frustrated Gara is trying to figure something out. Lick tells Schneider he can save himself if he climbs over Nee, but says Schneider has become weak with emotions and love. Lick laughs, calling him a hopeless human stuck in feelings. Schneider decides to take him down as a human and gets sucked into the black hole. Nee calls out to him, her sword snaps, and she almost gets sucked in. Gara grabs her blade to rescue her, but she's already let go to follow Schneider. The black hole closes, trapping both Schneider and Nee inside. Lick is feeling proud of winning. Then, Gara steps up to fight Lick, pulling out a lightning-covered sword that surprises him. Gara charges at Lick, attacking him super fast. Lick can't keep up and goes flying across the town. Gara puts all his energy into the fight but falls to the ground, remembering a joke Schneider made about him being a prank by the gods. The ninja friends rush to help and take him to a medic. They talk about Gara's sword, Miramasa, saying it might be draining his life energy, but their proud Gara was willing to sacrifice himself. But, Lick, almost dead, uses a Satan ring to come back to life. He threatens to wipe out the ninjas, calling them weak, but they stand their ground to protect Gara. Gara wishes he could tell them to run, but he can't. Just as Lick is about to attack them, Nu, the Thunder Beast, bites him from behind on the shoulder. Ifrit, the Fire Demon, holds the black hole open so Schneider and Nee can escape. Lick gets scared and asks Schneider how he got away when they were almost dead. Schneider explains that while they were floating around, he used a spell to find magic and summoned the enchanted swords. Ifrit creates a powerful barrier around them, waiting for Lick to draw power from the Satan ring, which he does after getting beaten by Gara. Schneider and Nee go to Gara and sympathize with him. Schneider jokes about Gara's bad shape, but thanks him for the help. But oh no, Lick interrupts them, saying their celebration is too early. He claims he's been reborn 100 times, each time stronger. He insists that their attacks won't work and proves humans are powerless. Schneider gets mad and tells Lick he'll pay for hurting his friend. Ifrit turns into a fire sword for Schneider. Lick lunges at him to eliminate him, but Schneider easily slices him in half, setting Lick on fire. Lick curses at Schneider, saying he was so close to stealing the Satan ring from Abigail and unlocking its powers to have magic stronger than the god of destruction. Schneider, tired of Lick's talk, slices him one last time to finish him off. As Lick disintegrates, the clouds clear up and he turns to dust. Nee thinks about Lick's final words, especially the power greater than the god of destruction. She remembers something from 15 years ago and wonders if that's what he meant. She notices the Satan ring returning to the castle. Abigail is shocked to see the ring back and wonders how Lick got defeated. With his plans messed up and the assassins beaten, he decides to go under the castle of Metallicana himself. He's after Sheila's seal, but Nee stands in his way. She tries to stop him, but Abigail uses the ring to transform into Omega Abigail. The Satan ring activates the demon mail and demon mace, forming a full armor that encases Abigail, making them one powerful entity. With this newfound power, Omega Abigail defeats Nee and is about to finish her when Schneider arrives, chanting a spell. Abigail turns to see where the attack will come from. Schneider's spell summons a golem, and Abigail realizes the danger. The golem breaks the wall, bringing Abigail and Schneider face to face. Everyone is on edge, wondering what this fight will be like. Schneider insults Abigail, demanding him to let Nee go. Nee tries to warn Schneider that Abigail is immune to magic attacks in his current form, but she is pressed against the wall by Omega Abigail, shattering all her armor. Abigail mocks Schneider, saying that the once ruler of the underworld, the Emperor of Darkness, and the Prince of Hell has fallen to a second-rate monkey who sides with humans and the forces of good. Schneider charges recklessly at Abigail with the golem. Gara rushes to him, telling him to keep a cool head. Nee echoes the same advice, urging him not to attack blindly. However, Abigail provokes Schneider by saying he'll finally get to face death. Schneider shuts him up by punching his upside-down face, causing Omega Abigail to fall. Abigail asks how Schneider knew the exposed face was the weakness of the golem. Schneider boasts, saying he's a natural-born genius. Schneider charges at Omega Abigail once more, full of determination. Abigail stays calm and gets ready to attack. The chestplate and shoulder guards of Omega Abigail open up, showing crystal orbs. Abigail claims he's more powerful than Schneider and can't be defeated. He fires a blast from the orbs, totally destroying Schneider's golem and the area around them. Schneider manages to jump away during the attack. Everyone is left speechless by Abigail's destructive power. Nee is worried because this power isn't magic and she's sensed it before. Schneider realizes it's the magic of the ancient world, making him curious. Gara warns him about Omega Abigail behind him, ready to attack. Abigail tells Schneider that what he just saw was only a tiny bit of the great power of evil that once destroyed all of humankind. Schneider decides that if the demonic treasures have such high destructive powers, he'd like to get his hands on one. Everyone is shocked to hear that the demonic treasures were actually created by the alchemists and sorcerers of the ancient world, using the same process used to create the god of destruction. Abigail tells Schneider that he's proud he figured things out, and that among the 4 divine kings, Schneider is a puzzle to him because he doesn't understand him at all. Abigail thinks Schneider is too smart and powerful. He then asks Schneider if he'd bow down and obey in exchange for power, but Schneider says no. Abigail decides to crush Schneider under Omega Abigail's feet. He celebrates, thinking he's beaten Schneider and can now possess the last seal to destroy the world. People around panic, feeling like they've lost their hero. Surprisingly, Schneider is still alive, pushing Omega Abigail off with just his strength. Everyone is shocked. Schneider calls Abigail deluded and says he'll show him what true evil looks like. He throws Omega Abigail against the castle walls, stating he'll show some of the power he's been storing, taking flight into the sky. Gara rushes to save Yoko from falling rocks caused by Schneider's actions. He tells her it's not good because when Schneider gets serious, he never quits, and Yoko believes it's true. Nada suggests evacuating the castle. Abigail laughs at Schneider, making fun of him for thinking he can use magic against him. He mocks Schneider, saying he's just a mage and magic is all he has to fight with. Schneider disagrees, saying his magic is different, and he hasn't lost a single battle or duel in the last 400 years. He's not planning to lose in the next 400 years either. Abigail tells Schneider he'll beat his cocky fighting spirit out of him, and the moment he finishes his spell is the moment he'll die. Nee gets worried because she knows magic won't work on Omega Abigail. She shouts at Schneider, telling him not to use magic against Abigail, but he's not listening. Schneider finishes casting his spell, creating a dark enclosure around Omega Abigail. Gara, Nee, and even Abigail start to fear because the magic Schneider used is a forbidden ancient spell. Geo notices this and tells everyone to get down. Schneider then casts another spell on top of the barrier and even laughs in the process. The spell creates slime organisms that tie down Omega Abigail, and snake-like creatures start striking at him. Schneider explains they are starving demon spirits he summoned from hell, always hungry, devouring anything and everything around them. Geo, watching, says it's the best way to destroy a demonic treasure with demons. Schneider confidently claims Abigail won't come out alive from the orb and laughs hysterically for a long time. Schneider believes it's over as the organisms solidify. However, Omega Abigail breaks through the barrier unscathed. He destroys the orb and sends powerful wind blades that cut off Schneider's leg and slice inches away from his heart. Everyone is in shock as Schneider is brutally hurt and falls to the ground. Omega Abigail lets out a roar, and regular Abigail sheds tears because Schneider always underestimates him. Suddenly, storm clouds form, and Geo and priests fear Abigail's power after seeing him defeat the demon spirits. Geo concludes it's impossible to destroy the golden treasure now that they are merged. Sheila suddenly collapses to the ground, writhing in pain. A rain of lightning from the sky showers over the castle. Anthrasax, the god of destruction, opens its eyes and screeches. It has broken free from its 3rd seal and is now moving. Geo realizes that the 4th seal is starting to break, but wonders why. Schneider is trying to keep his arm from falling off while Abigail questions him, asking how he created a link to the demon world and got that much magic power. Schneider laughs it off and tells him it's a secret. Then he mocks Abigail, asking him to admit that the demon spirits scared him enough to make him pee his pants. This angers Abigail, and he kicks Schneider against the castle walls, telling him never to underestimate him. Nee screams out of fear and shouts to Schneider to get out of there. Abigail laughs while stomping Schneider against the wall, wondering how long he can stay cocky. He stops, and Schneider falls down in a puddle of blood. Lar, watching, senses the god of destruction's power flowing into Abigail and Schneider, making him question their existence. Sheila, who is in pain, tries calling out to Schneider. Abigail, confident he's finished Schneider, laughs as everyone looks in fear at Schneider lying lifeless on the floor. Abigail laughs again, saying he'll finally create hell in the world. He starts climbing the tower where Princess Sheila is to rip the last seal from her body. Everyone is shocked to find out that the last seal is inside Princess Sheila. Geo, surprised, asks Abigail how he found out that the last seal was in the princess. Abigail says he knew because he feared their power. Geo had hidden the seal in a place in the kingdom where it would be the hardest to find and easiest to protect. Thus, Geo used magic to transplant the seal into the princess's abdomen. The men fear as Abigail draws near to the top of the tower. Sheila, still in pain, manages to utter Schneider's name, begging him to wake up and protect the world. Miraculously, it works, and Schneider is hit by a lightning bolt, awakening him. The power of darkness starts gathering around Schneider. He begins lecturing Abigail, saying he has no right to call the world his plaything. It wasn't created for one person's use. It was put there for everyone to use as they please. Despite his half-detached arm, Schneider lifts it and starts chanting a spell. Geo and the priests fear the spell, knowing it's the most powerful one of all time. Abigail asks if Schneider has gone insane, and Schneider tells him to shut up, calling him upside-down face man. He declares that he's going to blow the castle sky high. However, there's trouble as even this powerful spell has no effect on Omega Abigail, just like Arch's knee and Gara's powers had no effect on the demon armor. Geo concludes they are doomed. The mighty spell Halloween is getting super powerful, and it's wrecking part of the castle, making everyone run away to stay safe. Schneider is still casting the spell, but now his arm is bleeding a lot. Abigail just laughs, saying his magic won't even scratch the outside of the Omega Abigail. He brags that it has an unstoppable defense shield, even stronger than absolute magic, and it can protect against the power from the god of destruction. But then, out of nowhere, Nee appears in the sky and questions Abigail. She says no matter how strong the armor is, it can be broken by a really powerful force that's stronger than the armor's defense. Nee starts saying the magic words for Halloween, the same spell Schneider is using. Everyone starts cheering for her, hoping it might beat Abigail. Now, Abigail is getting scared, thinking it might actually work. As Nee shoots the spell at Abigail, she's sure the energy is strong enough to break his barrier. If it doesn't work, she knows they won't be able to destroy the three merged demonic treasures. But she doesn't give up. Both her and Schneider keep attacking, and finally, they break through the defensive barrier. Their powers combine and shoot into the sky before disappearing. Boulders fall on Abigail, crushing him. Everyone celebrates, thinking they've saved the castle. But the happiness is short-lived. Abigail laughs and rises from the rubble, taunting them. He says if that's all the power of good has against evil, then they've lost. The armor now has strange markings, and Gara can't believe such a powerful attack didn't work. Nee realizes an anti-magic spell was cast on the armor, explaining why swords and magic couldn't affect it. Abigail keeps mocking Schneider, saying he'll end his legacy as the legendary wizard. Schneider can't stand up due to injuries and exhaustion. Abigail laughs again, claiming that this day marks the beginning of void and destruction in the land. Everyone loses hope, realizing there's nothing they can do to stop this evil. Abigail walks up to Schneider, saying he's going to be the sacrifice to create the land of hell. But Schneider, not giving up, stands tall and tells Abigail that he's the one who's going to end up defeated. Abigail just laughs at Schneider's tough talk. Nee, worried for Schneider, runs to meet him, believing she can't live without him. Gara grabs his sword and rushes to join Schneider, but Yoko quickly blocks them. She tells them Schneider won't die, saying it with strong conviction. Abigail keeps talking about ending Schneider, planning to use the armor's Kingstone to turn him into ashes, just like the Golem. He threatens to wipe out Schneider's friends and lover. Nee tries to run to Schneider, but Gara pulls her back, restraining her. Gara is worried too, as nothing they've tried has worked on Abigail, but he's trusting Yoko, who tells them to have faith. Geo realizes that the power of darkness in Abigail and Schneider is affecting the seal on Princess Sheila. If the power continues to grow, it will break. Sheila, crying, desperately hopes Schneider survives because he's the only one who can save them. Schneider manages to stand up, but he only has one leg and one arm left. Still, he doesn't give up. Regaining his strength, he declares that he won't give in, and this time, he'll be the winner. Abigail and Schneider prepare for their final attack. Both launch at each other. Abigail boasts that Schneider can't touch his defense, but Schneider reveals there's one weak spot in the armor. He forces himself through Abigail's blast and goes straight for that vulnerable point. The armor gets hit and crumbles to the ground in pieces. It's a victory, but not a complete one. Schneider sacrificed his body and is cut in half as a result. Mie hugs the top half of Schneider's body, tears streaming down her face. Everyone worried for him, but there's a smile on both Gara and Yoko faces when Schneider responds, gently rubbing Mie's hair. Schneider starts crying when Gara asks why, revealing that he won't be able to be with Yoko because a crucial part is gone. Yoko throws a rock at him, saying it's good that it's gone. However, the shock isn't over yet. Abigail rises again, and with some tentacles attached to his body, he grabs Yoko. Everyone is shocked and angry that Abigail is not dead. Yoko struggles to free herself, not wanting Schneider to end up dying because of her. Schneider tries to stand with his half-body, but Abigail shoots him, warning him not to move if he values Yoko's life. Tentacles emerge from the ground and restrain Mie and Gara. Abigail aims for another shot at Schneider, and it seems like it could be the end for him. In a dreamy place, Schneider finds himself on a trance plane. Lucy calls out to him, telling him to stand up. Slowly, Schneider opens his eyes and sits up. Lucian, appearing before him, insists it's not his time to die. He's got a mission: protect Metallicana, prevent the seal and the princess and the god of destruction from breaking, and shield his wounded friends from the unsuccessful battle. Lucian emphasizes that they'll do it together for the people they love and the entire world. But Schneider slaps Lucian's hand away, surprising him. He tells Lucian he doesn't care about the world or love. Schneider claims he owns the world and all the beautiful women belong to him. Angry about Abigail making a fool out of him, Schneider declares his intention to kill Abigail. Closing his eyes, he returns, challenging Abigail to continue the fight, emphasizing that having only half his body won't stop him. Abigail is shocked that Schneider is still alive, while his friends are overjoyed that he's back. Schneider tells Abigail that this is the last time. He is determined to kill Abigail once and for all. If Abigail ever comes back to life again, Schneider will just kill him again. Schneider does something that makes Abigail shout out Jesus' name. Schneider surrounds his body completely with flames. This allows him to stand up. Then he launches a fiery attack at Abigail, who dodges it. Abigail wonders how Schneider still has so much power and energy. He guesses that it might be because of the god of destruction's evil magic. The god of destruction somehow brings Schneider back to life every time and also makes Schneider's powers stronger. This happens because the god of destruction has a strong connection to darkness. Schneider used to rule over darkness and people knew him as a demon. So the god of destruction's ties to Schneider run deep. As more of the god of destruction's sealed powers are being released, Schneider keeps getting more and more powerful. When the final seal holding back Sheila's powers breaks open, Schneider will gain a tremendous amount of power. 15 years ago, Abigail would have been impressed by Schneider gaining more power. But now Schneider is an enemy of the Dark Rebels. But his change is because of a fight that actually happened 15 years ago when Schneider battled one of the Prince of the Five Knights named Gionoto. When Schneider tried to cast his secret reincarnation spell, Gio sealed Schneider's soul inside Lucian instead. Even though the seal broke and Schneider came back to life, Schneider changed during those 15 years sealed away. Abigail says Schneider no longer deserves the title Evil Incarnate because Lucian put a human heart inside him. Abigail tries to talk about what love has done to Schneider, but Schneider has heard enough. He charges at Abigail and punches him, telling Abigail he talks too much for someone evil. Schneider says Abigail should shut up while Schneider the handsome hero gets rid of him. Schneider tells Abigail to prepare to see something really scary. When Abigail tries to respond, Schneider yells at him to shut up, not letting Abigail talk. Abigail sends a stone golem to attack Schneider, but its sword bounces off a magical barrier surrounding Schneider, surprising Abigail. Schneider declares he will finish off Abigail now. He starts casting a powerful spell. When Abigail sends the golem to intervene, Schneider summons Efreet, a fiery spirit, who starts burning the golem. Schneider casts a Halloween spell, blasting the golem. Gara comments that this Halloween spell is even more powerful than Schneider's last ones. Abigail says his ghost knights merging with the stone golem will make it immune to his power and create an opposing power to counter his attack. The knights re-energize the golem, making it even stronger than Schneider's Halloween spell. Schneider has gotten more powerful too. He casts his strongest fire spell along with another Halloween spell. This finally destroys the stone golem. Yoko cheers Schneider on, and everyone is happy he is winning. Schneider then faces Abigail. He summons fire spirits to handle the ghost knights. Abigail watches in shock as his army is destroyed. He yells at Schneider to stay back and attacks with his tentacles, but Schneider burns them off. Abigail tries again, but Schneider burns those tentacles off too. Schneider tells Abigail to shut up and starts punching his face over and over. Even with the punches, Abigail is charging up his Satan ring. He thinks Schneider made a mistake not finishing him off with magic. Once the ring is fully charged, Abigail plans to get revenge and open a black hole to suck in Schneider. But before the ring finishes charging, Schneider throws his flaming sword, impaling Abigail against a rock and killing him. Geo and the priests are happy Schneider killed Abigail. The God of Destruction seal is still intact, so it cannot rise up and cause destruction. After defeating Abigail, Schneider is badly hurt. His body of fire disappears and he falls to the ground, only half of his body remaining. Yoko runs over, worried about him. Schneider tells her he has one last thing to say. He says, "I love you" to Yoko, saying both he and Lucian will love her forever. Then he closes his eyes and rests his head. Yoko is surprised. She tries waking him up, crying and begging him to come back. Everyone is sad, thinking Schneider died. But Schneider was just joking around. He snuggles against Yoko with a smile. Realizing his prank, Yoko knocks him on the head. They start arguing, but then she smiles and says she loves him. As Yoko compliments Schneider, Abigail interrupts. He says Schneider doesn't have enough power left to finish him off. With Schneider running out of energy, Abigail thinks he has won. Abigail prepares to blast Schneider, but Yoko stands in front protecting him. Yoko notices the platform Abigail is on is unstable. Schneider tries convincing Yoko to move to safety, but instead she starts running at Abigail, dodging his tentacles. Schneider keeps yelling for Yoko to stop, but it's too late. She pushes a rock, causing Abigail's platform to collapse. Both Yoko and Abigail fall off the high cliff's edge. This is Yoko's way of protecting and showing love to everyone. Yoko falls into the sea. Abigail falls onto a tower top, which impales him. Many gray energy entities emerge from Abigail's body. These entities are called darkness. They suddenly start spreading, making the daytime sky go dark like night. The dark clouds bring lightning that begins destroying the castle. The villagers watching from far away think it is the end of days. As the castle is being destroyed with rubble falling everywhere, Archie goes to be with Schneider. A boulder almost falls on them, but Gara rushes in to block it. As the lightning keeps flashing, everything it touches starts vanishing. Schneider's spirit leaves his body, and he meets with Yoko's spirit. Their spirits become one together forever. Lucian's seal is also broken free. The villagers watch as the entire castle is destroyed in a big explosion. Watch this next video. See you on the next one.